the town is like here.
Freedom itself is a dangerous way of life, but it is ours. So that's the American Library Association's statement of freedom.
So we know you're here because we're discussing the tour project this evening, so I'd like to begin with a couple of comments. I'd like to begin with a brief chronology, and it will be brief because this is played out over a short period of time. At our June 23rd board meeting, the board was presented with a proposal from Chuck, asking if the board would be interested and willing to join as a participating member of the TOR project. And TOR is a service that allows users to search and use the web anonymously. So we discussed it briefly, and the board agreed after that discussion to serve as a relay node in the TOR network. So I don't know the exact date, but I suppose shortly after that, in early July at some point, the library system went online. We were middle relay before, and the system was up and running. We were connected to the system for a few weeks, and if anyone has read this in the paper, at that point, at some point around then, the Department of Homeland Security contacted the local police and asked them if they were aware that we had become a relay for TOR, and they informed other members of the city government, and so we got together to talk about that. And we had a meeting on August 12th, very unanimous in the room, members of the city staff, including a couple of police officers, Paula Mayville, the deputy city manager, and Chuck, myself, Sean, and a couple of other staff members from the city. At that meeting, we shared with the city staff our reasons for joining the TOR network, and they shared with us their concerns, and they had a number of concerns. They were worried about criminal activity over this network. Anonymous activity, anyone can do it, anyone can use the network. So they had legitimate, I think, and serious concerns about what we were doing. We shared information, and based on their concerns, the library voluntarily backed off from participation, and so our participation has been in vain since then. And what we told the city staff is that we would come back to the next board meeting and discuss this again with the board. We didn't have a meeting in August, so here we are in September. I'd like to say a couple of other things. The discussion tonight is about the library's participation in TOR as a relay site. There has been some confusion where some people have commented that we were not allowing or denying access to TOR by private citizens, and that's not the case. We were interested at that point in loading TOR browser, the TOR browser, for example, on our computers. TOR is available to anyone who loads their browser on a personal computer, and they're connected to the network. That's not what we were about. What we did volunteer to serve as a relay for the system, which allows traffic to be routed through our server and throughout the rest of the network. So that's what we were involved in. In order to, I think, better inform the board, we have some people here tonight from TOR network, or who are aware, very well informed about what it is about. So I'd like to have first Allison Macrina speak to us for a few minutes to outline TOR so that everyone has a general understanding of what it is. And if you're willing, I'd also like to offer Paula Mayville, and if the Chief of Police is interested in speaking to this about city concerns, I think that would be useful for the board and for members of the audience. And after that, we'll have a short public comment time. I don't think this can be a Q&A. We just want to hear that topic over time. And if you do have a question, I suppose you can pose it, and then as the board is discussing it among themselves, someone may address, when they choose to address, the question that you raise. All right? All right. So yes, Allison, please.
All right. Forgive me, I have some notes with me because I want to keep it brief. So, hi everybody. My name is Allison Macrina, and I am the director of the Library Freedom Project. I'm also a community member for TOR Project.
I'm Nima Fatemi. I'm an independent security researcher focused on encryption, privacy, and circumvention technology, along member and volunteer of TOR Project.
So the first thing we want to say is thank you so much to the board for letting us speak about TOR and for your initial participation in this really important project. And thank you to the community for turning out like this. We're actually pretty overwhelmed to see what an amazing community response this is. This is what libraries are all about, is hearing from our communities and making these kinds of decisions together. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what TOR does and who uses it, and why libraries are the right location for it. So a brief definition of what TOR is Tor browser is a piece of software, free and open source, that helps people protect their privacy and anonymity online by obscuring their personally identifiable information to the internet. And Tor works by bouncing your traffic to a network of relays, which is what we asked Kilton Library to run back in July. These relays are run by volunteers from all over the world, and this decentralization is some of the strength of the Tor network because many, many people are involved. It's much stronger as a community effort. The reason why we chose Kilton Library and libraries in general to run Tor relays is because basically two reasons. Libraries already provide public internet services to their communities, and libraries are some of the strongest defenders of democratic values like privacy and free speech. Kilton Library is a particularly exemplary library among those, and because we are in the live free or die state, we knew that this was the right place to get started on this project. Nima and I helped the Kilton Library staff set up the relay back in July. Library Freedom Project, we travel all over the country. We teach librarians about privacy and how to help support their community's privacy needs. And Kilton was the pilot in what we intend to be a much bigger project that many, many more libraries are interested in. But we did need one to get started first, and Kilton was the right one to do that. So who uses Tor? Who does it help? Tor is used by a diverse group of people, as diverse as the clear internet is. Some use cases for Tor that are worth mentioning. Domestic violence survivors use Tor to help keep themselves safe from their abusers who want to stalk and track their location. It's also used by journalists who are reporting on repressive conditions across the world to help keep their location information safe. It's used by political activists in the US and also in internet-censored countries. It's used by law enforcement, actually, because law enforcement can use Tor to help with things like sting operations. Tor is actually underwritten by the US State Department and is based on research that was done by the US Navy, so it has a very deep relationship with the US government. It's also used by pretty much any ordinary person who wants to help protect their privacy and security online. The fact is that the risk we take in a free society is that when we have a piece of infrastructure there are some people who will use it for bad things and some people who will use it for good things. The analogy that is most often used around Tor is it's kind of like having a road. You know, I drive to work on a road. I drove here to beautiful Lebanon, New Hampshire on a road. Some people use roads to drive drunk. It's not a good reason to ban roads. And the fact about Tor is that there are some criminals who use it, but criminals have many options to help protect their privacy. The virtue of the fact that they are willing to break the law to achieve their ends means that if Tor were to be completely shut down tomorrow, the criminals who use Tor would have still many other choices. But all those other people that we just mentioned, domestic violence survivors, journalists, whistleblowers, ordinary people who want to opt out of mass surveillance, those people would not have another option because they don't break the law, because they are people like you and me. So the risk that we take in a free society means that when we create a piece of infrastructure like this, inevitably there are a few people who are going to abuse it. But I trust in traditional law enforcement to suss out that criminal element in the ways that they do with all kinds of other criminal activity. And I think that in a free society we should protect our access to something that gives such a benefit to so many other people. So one other thing I want to mention is that it doesn't cost anything for the library to support Tor. There was some confusion around that, I think, in some of the media that we saw. Because this library has such amazing bandwidth, they're able to use some of the unused bandwidth to support this relay. It doesn't really take all that much, and it's, you know, it doesn't have any effect on the patrons who are using the library. And the last thing that I want to say before we open it up to the community, we have an open letter that some folks may have seen, and I can pass it around. This is a letter that we wrote supporting the Kilton Library and keeping up their relay and supporting the Kilton community. And we have a huge number of amazing luminaries from public organizations, human rights groups, from folks like the UN Special Rapporteur for Free Expression and Privacy. So I'm going to pass this around if anyone wants to take a look at it. We also have a petition that the Electronic Frontier Foundation helped us set up. And this petition, we got it started, I think, on Thursday. It had 4,400 signatures in those few days. So I just want to hand this over to the board if you guys want to read all the names on it. You're welcome to.
And we have some extra copies of
if anyone wants to take the open letter. So we've had an incredible public response in support of the library. I think the board members have heard from a number of people. The library staff have heard from a number of people. That support is global. The media attention has been massive. But that is not as important as what the people in this room think. So I'm going to stop talking now and let everyone hear from the people in here who are the ones who really should be making this decision. So thank you so much for giving me your time. This is amazing.
As I said earlier, in early August, we met with the city staff, and there were several members of the staff there. And they expressed concerns about our participation in it. And so I want to offer police chief or Paula an opportunity to express concerns so that the board can hear those directly from you.
Hi everybody, I'm Paula Mayville. I'm the Deputy City Manager here in the city. First of all, I want to begin by thanking you for holding this meeting, for Allison and coming to speak about the advantages of the Tor project. Quite honestly, prior to the attention being brought forward by the Department of Homeland Security Internet Sex Crimes Against Children Division, I had never heard of Tor. I never knew that there was such thing as an underground invisible web. So I came to this meeting quite ignorant, admittedly, but with grave concerns. Just as there are legitimate reasons for privacy and intellectual freedom, there are legitimate concerns when it comes to harboring criminal activity. It wasn't our intent whatsoever to strong arm. It wasn't our intent whatsoever to try to shut anything down. It was to bring to the library concerns that we were not aware of ahead of the vote that was done in June. So it was one department or two departments communicating with another department of the city to express those concerns. And so I appreciate all of the advantages. I appreciate all of the good that this can do. You, as the board, are charged with making this decision. You are statutorily able to do this outside of the authority of the city council. Doing it data-based, doing it with a full understanding, doing it knowing that there are these concerns out there is what informed decision-making is about. So that's all that this is. This isn't pitting law enforcement against freedom of speech. This isn't pitting the police department and the work that they do against the library and the work that they do. This isn't about pitting Homeland Security against Little Lebanon, New Hampshire. This is about making an informed decision. So whatever it is that you guys need in order to do that, we're here to support that. So, you know, I hope that you do make the best decision. I understand the global. I also understand that we're a small residential community in New Hampshire. So if you feel this benefits the citizens of the Lebanon, then fine. Let's make the decision. But we'll do it informed and with everybody's point of view. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Phil Roberts, the Deputy Police Chief in the City of Lebanon. And I guess, first of all, I just want to make it clear, kind of echo what Paul Baylor just said. Our goal, our mission was not the core system at all. We simply were notified by our colleagues, specifically ICAC, Crimes Against Children Task Force, brought it to our attention, required it. We were aware of the system and the pros and cons. So, as you've heard, that led to the meeting. We didn't try to influence or strong arm or convince the library to shut it down. We simply came in as law enforcement and said these are the cons of this system. We're aware that there's a lot of pros, but there are a couple of cons that other law enforcement agencies and the federal authorities have dealt with, to include sharing of child pornography and black market drug distribution. Are all cases that they've dealt with. So we simply just wanted to inform everyone so it was an educated decision by everybody involved. So that was our position.
And I know Sean in various interviews has said the same thing, and I would like to reiterate that again. There were, I think, some unfortunate misunderstandings, and there were 8 people in the room when we met back in August. People who commented, they were supporters of TARP, but they misunderstood what happened in that meeting. The tone and the tenor of the meeting was cordial, it was collegial. As Paul said, it was department talking to department. The city expressed their concerns, and we understood that those were serious and legitimate concerns, and we did want to cooperate and give the board another chance for a fuller understanding of this before we go forward. So thanks very much. At this point, I'd like to take several minutes anyway try to set the clock.
You got 7:20. 7:20.
To take comments from the audience. I don't want this to be a Q&A, as I said earlier, but we're happy to hear what you have to say. Yes, sir.
Yes. In 1956, I had top secret clearance with the federal government. And what I did was I did spy work, and we spied on the Russians. And I think you'd better not get rid of TOR and any kind of advising to that. I would not advise it. Have had a stroke, so my English is not so good. I speak Russian, Chinese, Japanese, Hindi, Urdu, and a little Persian. And I will tell you, you better keep the home security thing, keep them far away.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say. Lloyd.
Yes, thank you. If anyone is going to make a comment on this, please state your name. If you have an affiliation, please address that. And if you're a resident, absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Hi, I'm Evelyn Cohen. We are here from the American Institute for Security, Technology and Society. And over there we are also setting up a private as we speak. And if you guys need any technical support or if you have any questions in the future, then we are here, we are local and we'll help you out.
Where is that?
It's at Dartmouth in the computer science department.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Raymond Hood, I live in Lebanon. I'm thinking about what would our forefathers think, the founders of this country think. What would be splashed across Benjamin Franklin's newspaper if he were alive today and saw our government, what they're doing, spying on its citizens. And they say, oh, we're collecting phone numbers. What good is that? Of course they're doing more than that. So here we are today, and I think we should keep it. Here we are living in this state of New Hampshire with the motto that they have. Think of Lebanon when this was established, the type of people that came here and established this community. They were all here for freedom. My ancestors fought in the Revolutionary War. How do I answer to them? If they could stand before me today, if I stood before them and say, what did you let our government do? What have you done? So I would say, stand up, be counted. It's got to start somewhere. Why don't it start in Lebanon, New Hampshire? Live free or die state.
Hi, my name is Devin Chafee. I'm the Executive Director of the New Hampshire, of the ACLU of New Hampshire. And I just want to say I was very honored to be invited to give a presentation on privacy rights at the Kilton Library, and was so amazed by the enthusiasm that librarians across the state of New Hampshire have demonstrated for protecting the free speech and privacy rights of their patrons. And so I do think that it's incredibly appropriate for the library to be hosting such an important technology to protect free speech and privacy rights. We fully supported the library's decision to support this technology. And we do hope that you will restore the relay node. I also just want to highlight two quick things. One is that, as has been highlighted, Tor is primarily supported by the U.S. Department of State, and there is a reason for that. They really do believe that it's an incredibly important tool to protecting, human rights advocates, reporters, etc. And so want to just sort of highlight that federal government support for the program. I also want to highlight some really interesting comments made just a couple of days ago by FBI Director James Comey, who actually stated that, you know what, Tor isn't a threat to our national security. We can do investigations even though this online anonymity exists, and they have done successful investigations into individuals who have, the small percentage of individuals that have used it for nefarious purposes. And this is the FBI director. So I really do think that the board should feel confident that they are not at all contributing to any security concerns in supporting this U.S. State Department funded and important privacy and free speech tool. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My name is Donald McFarlane. My wife and I are residents of Orange. I'm here tonight speaking on my own behalf. Do not represent here my employer or anyone else I'm associated with. I've been in the field of information security for over 20 years, and I just came to be aware of this meeting earlier this afternoon, so I don't come with any prepared comments, but I would say to what I've heard already and to what you may be thinking, first of all, the lady who was talking a few moments ago about Director James Comey, Comey has in recent months made it abundantly clear that he and the DOJ would very much like to have yet more privileges and yet more rights to come and do their investigations, and maybe they'd like to throw out the Fourth Amendment as well. But the fact of the matter remains, and it's good to hear that he's now admitting, they have plenty of mechanisms available to them in order to conduct their investigations. They have far more tools and techniques available to them today than they did a decade ago, or 2 decades ago, or 3 decades ago, when it was still entirely normal to have phones tapped and to have an understanding in detail more than many people realize of what was going on. As such, I don't think that the debate here, I don't think that the discourse here should be around whether or not it may be a little bit harder for the police to track down a paedophile. I think that the debate here should be around whether this is the proper function of a library. And the analogy that was made earlier to guns, I think, is a strong one. It is a tool. Tor is a tool, guns are a tool, the car that I drove here this evening is a tool, and it can be used for good or ill. And the reality is that Tor, because of its very nature, because we're seeking anonymity, because we're seeking privacy when we use it, not in our entire lives, not from the government who can bypass the veil of Tor, and have done so. We had a number of folks who have made a lot of a stink about the fact that the government was able to bypass Tor in order to get a prosecution against an individual who was trying to commit crimes and sell drugs and so on and so forth on his website. They're able to prosecute through Tor. What the people that are using Tor, as you've heard already, are trying to do is to get privacy from 1 or 2 other people in their community that are aggressing against them, or to get it from a foreign government that they're trying to report on. They're not looking for protection from the US government, and if they are, that is not a sensible approach just to use Tor and be done with it. So the issue at hand then is this the function of a library? Libraries are serving their community, and I think one of the concerns that your colleague from the town here has evidenced is maybe this is not Lebanon's fight, maybe this is not in the interest of the Lebanon residents. I would put it to you that the way that Tor is designed, you are providing an exit node for people in other communities. They, one might hope, will come to provide exit nodes for your residents. It is precisely the kind of function that a library should be performing. It is a community function. It is just a larger community than you're used to dealing with. And I think this is precisely the sort of thing that the library should be doing. And I'm impressed that you're doing it in the Kilton Library, and I hope you continue. Thank you.
My name is Jason Soares. I live in West Lebanon, and I support the relay node. I think, again, like any technology, Tor has both costs and benefits, and I understand the costs. It does seem that the benefits outweigh the costs, and for that reason I support it. But I would also say that I think to reverse course at this stage would be would send a bad signal, and send a signal that this is an inherently dangerous technology, inherently bad technology, and it would set a poor precedent for trying to strengthen the network nationwide.
I'm Sam Eaton. I'm a founding member of Ben Swan's Truth and Media Project. I'm touching something on that he mentioned earlier. We have sources all over the world that come to us to reveal things about their governments. For instance, we have sources inside Syria and Egypt that will not talk to us unless it's encrypted via Tor or some other way. So I think that is a very beneficial thing to think about.
Yeah, my name is Lee Sussman. I'm a resident of Lebanon, New Hampshire, and a lifelong resident of the Upper Valley. I just wanted to express my complete support for the project that's going on here. And again, I'd like to just echo the statements that I think it would set an awful precedent to reverse course at this point. When I found out about the project that was going on, I just happened to stumble across it, and I felt a tremendous sense of pride that it was my community that was leading the way with this. And I just feel like I feel extremely proud to be part of a community that started doing this. I would feel very disappointed to be part of a community that decided that this was not the way to go, and that shut it down after having began and decided to stop. So just expressing my support, and I think it's a great thing that you're doing.
I'm Lloyd Fong. I'm a Lebanon resident. Just a couple of words on background. Tor is an acronym, the Onion Router. .onion is a top-level domain like .com and .edu. It's a part of the internet. One thing to keep in mind is Homeland Security and the agencies that want to monitor what's going on can also set up Tor routers, and they do. A lot of, there are estimates that 10 to 15% of the Tor relays are actually run by agencies that are trying to spy on the traffic going through them. So the more sort of community-operated relays that you have, so that more of the network can be trusted, the better off it is for Tor, and actually for the Homeland Security also. I mean, if Tor can't be trusted at all, then nobody will use it. The bad actors, will get found out. So I don't think that, the fact that it's used by criminals is really, a reason to just, refuse to do a Tor relay. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Karen McFarland. You've heard from my husband. I definitely think that Tor is important, but I have to say, I understand and sympathize from the fact that I don't think anyone wants pedophiles to have easier access. So speaking to the role of libraries as a community, as a learning place, I think that this is also a good opportunity to maybe have more programs where people want to learn for what they should look for. I think that they can work in hand. There's no reason that now that you know that there's more threats out there and you're aware of what can happen, that, informed the police, whoever can come in and try and make sure that people know what to be aware of. Because I think that it's a combination. You shouldn't take something away from people, but you shouldn't say, well, there's a threat, but let's just not think about it because everything else is good. You should say, there's a good, here's the threat, let's think about what people as individuals who care should think about and know to look for, and they could go in together so that people maybe can learn to know what they should be afraid about, what people are doing. And that way, everyone can progress, because you can't stop everyone from being bad, but at least you can be vigilant.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Steve Cannon. I'm a Lebanon resident and national computer scientist. And I just want to echo the comments that people have already made, that I think is a wonderful thing for the library to be doing, and I fully support it. And also second the point that people who want to circumvent the law have other means to do it, but Tor is really actually an essential tool for people who are disadvantaged, who don't have the means to circumvent and protect their privacy by other methods. That's all.
I'm Mary Sorens. I'm Jason's wife. I live in West Lebanon, but I wanted to make a statement kind of as a mom. I brought my 4-year-old and a tear up. Obviously, when you hear the word sex crimes against children, you freak out. But I do feel like it's primarily my job to help protect my child, and the job of everyone in my community to help protect my child. I take her privacy seriously. I do my best, and I think most parents now realize that that is a concern for us. We're in the internet age, and we should care for our children and protect our children as much as we can. I would not want to take away the freedom of a lot of people in the world on the off chance that something awful happens to my child. And I think there are a lot of mothers out there who agree. I mean, I want to protect her, but I don't want to take other people's freedoms away, and I think there are better ways to protect her.
Thank you.
My name is Clifford Perry. I'm a resident of Lebanon and a software engineer. It seems like the input so far has been unanimous. And so I hope that that is going to have the result that I would expect it to have. I would second what the gentleman in the back said, that the fact that the Lebanon library system, as I understand it, is the first library in the country to set up a relay.
In the world. In the world. Well,
in the world.
I don't know.
I think all of us can take a great deal of pride in that. And,
Yeah.
and I hope this will serve as an example that's going to snowball and cause libraries all over the country to take the same step. Thank you.
Yes.
My name is Griffin. I live in Wilder. I think there are cons to Tor, but there are also cons to the internet in general, and the internet represents like a point of progress. But it also represents cyberbullying, hacking, and we don't want to get rid of the internet because of cyberbullying, and we don't want to get rid of Tor, and we want to actually be supporting these points of progress rather than holding them back. And I'm really proud that a library in the Beaver Valley is doing that, is moving forward. So. Yeah.
My name is Maria Ortiz. I am library staff. I am kind of nervous. I am from Colombia. That means I know what freedom is in America. We had a 50-year civil war going there, and I wish Tor would be there 15 years ago to help people because we don't know what is freedom until we are kidnapped or something like that happen to somebody. As a Colombian social worker working there, I saw a lot of people being in bad places when the freedom of speech is part of the democracy there. It's one of the, democracy in South America is very powerful in paper, but in America it's powerful, not only in paper. There's a reason the freedom of speech made me tearful because here it is real, and made me proud to be here.
Just one real quick one. My name is Bill McGonigal. In Plainfield, my business has been in Lebanon for a while. I don't need to extol Tor. I was running a relay here in Lebanon 5 years ago to support the Iranian dissidents who were being persecuted when they're trying to deal with a corrupt election over there. I don't need to talk about that. I just want to thank you guys. You're doing a fantastic thing here. You know, maybe a little bit brave, definitely forward-looking. And I just want to say thank you, and just so you know, we're here to support you.
Are there any other comments? Thank you very much. I would like to make one clarification, and that is someone mentioned that we were a Tor exit, and we are not. We signed on to be a relay site, and that's what the pilot project entailed. And that's where we are at the moment. Things could change in the future, of course, but this is what the project is here at the moment. We're simply a relay site. All right? So there are no more comments. What we want to do now is have a discussion among board members, but before we do that, I'd like to have Sean, Library Director, speak to us.
So I'd like to thank everybody who's turned out tonight. It's a very impressive people here, so thank you. I wanted to report on the results of input that we have received from the Lebanon community and abroad, and so those comments are here. We've received from Lebanon residents 14 total comments via our website, email. 13 were for reinstating the Tor middle relay, and 1 was against. We received a total for non-residents or people of unknown residents, 75 comments. And of those, 74 were for and 1 was against. So if you want to see those comments, they'll be available as part of the record at the Kilton Library, or you can take a look at them tonight if you want to. It's kind of a big packet here, but I had some prepared remarks, but I think I would be redundant for a lot of what was already said and be wasting your time. So I'll skip to the part where I just recommend that we reinstate the Tor relay. Our board approved it once, and I'd like to recommend that. I'd like to also at this point commend our IT librarian, Chuck McKenna, who's over there. That's well deserved. The work he's done with Allison. So without him, this project would not have come to fruition. So if there's one person in this room who's deserving of your applause, it is Chuck. I say that now because I know it won't be perceived to be placing the blame on projects that was assigned. So I'm simply really just a library administrator. I hope I work on the reference desk. I hope I'm a pretty good reference librarian, but he is really a truly talented IT librarian. So the last thing I'd like to say is we're not really that lonely, especially not tonight. And we're doing just fine.
So at this point, board can speak to this point, and we'll get voting people. Anyone have any comments?
I have a question. I just wonder, why haven't more libraries approached you? Why are we the only one?
It's actually not that you're the only one.
Okay,
We
it
just
feels
needed
like
a
it.
pilot. I know, and I know how lonely it must be to be the one to take the first step. But one thing that has been really incredible in the response that we've gotten after this whole incident happened is that many other libraries, when we set up the pilot, many other libraries said, hey, can you consider us next? And we said, sure, we just want to make sure this goes okay and nothing crazy happens. But since this incident this week, we've gotten a dozen more. So we still need the pilot to finish them. But yes, many other libraries are interested.
So are you getting big cities like Manchester or Concord or Boston?
In other states, yeah. So let's see who we. I don't know if I want to say who they are.
You don't have to
before
say
they-
that. I just
but
yes or no.
But like much bigger cities than Lebanon, yeah. But
Yeah,
that's
that's
not as good though. Yeah. So the reason we decided to go with Kilton Library, Library Freedom Project had been to Kilton a couple times. We've known Chuck for a while. You guys have one of the Kilton Library is one of the best libraries I've ever been to, and I've been a librarian for almost a decade. And I run Library Freedom Project, which means all I do is visit libraries. Nima and I decided to do this relay project, and we hope the library will consider turning it into an exit relay, because that was what we intended in the beginning. But when we started this, we said we need a pilot. Who is the perfect pilot? And there was no other one. So, you know, just, I know it's lonely, but it's because you guys are so awesome.
What is the difference between how we are at the moment and an exit route? What is the difference? And would an exit, being an exit, would put us in a different status vis-a-vis law enforcement?
Do you want me to take that, or do you want to take it? So basically, the law enforcement response that you got was as if you were already an exit node, essentially. The difference between a middle and an exit is the exit is the one that's identifiable on the circuit. The traffic goes through 3 different computers. The exit node is the only one that where the IP address is discoverable. What it means in terms of what kind of response you're going to get from law enforcement. You might get some attention for it, but there are many institutions that run exits, and typically they might get like a copyright notice of some kind. Libraries are actually considered safe harbors from copyright, so I see some members of the board nodding, they already know this. We get these for our public Wi-Fi occasionally. The worst thing that we have seen happen with exit relay operators is they might get a letter from the FBI or other law enforcement that says, there's some traffic that's exiting from your IP here, and we don't know what, this is something that we're trying to investigate. And usually when that happens, you can send a letter that says, this is a Tor relay, this is what it is, this is what Tor network does, and we don't keep any logs of this traffic, this is not coming from us. This is one of the reasons why we think libraries are really the right locations to host these, because it's a little harder for an individual to make that argument that it's not her traffic, but a library hosts all, many other, people use the Wi-Fi and use the wired internet, so it's already something that many, many different people are using.
And I just want to
add
add
to
that for that letter that Allison mentioned, there is a template that we use at Tor Project. This template has been written by amazing lawyers of Electronic Frontier Foundation, and it explains what Tor is, what an exit node is, and how you don't actually have any access to those information that law enforcement is seeking. So yeah.
And one thing, as being a part of the Library Freedom Project's Tor Exit Relay project means that we will support you with the legal team that we have, which includes folks from the ACLU, Electronic Frontier Foundation, and some independent counsel. So we've got like kind of the coolest set of lawyers that there is. So they're ready in case, worst case that something happens, they're ready to support you.
If I could add something too. Since all this attention has come to us, we've had a number of people who operate exit relays reach out to us. And universally, they've been in support of this, and that includes the computer science folks from Dartmouth, as well as MIT reached out to us, and they all offered their support, both in setting it up and just talking about their experiences in hosting an exit relay. But to a person, they all encouraged us to do it.
Just one more thing I want to say about the exit, if you're wondering why we're encouraging the exit so much, is because they're the most needed. There are relays that are run all over the world, but there are more middle relays than there are exits. And we want to strengthen the Tor network. And so exits are really we would love a middle relay, but an exit relay is really something that would help the network much more. Thank you.
One of the things in the research that I have found out was that other private and public institutions are subject to the DMCA of 1998. But the beauty of going to the libraries is that they are not subject to that. They have the freedom that some of the public and other private institutions do not have because of the DMCA.
Yeah. Safe harbor.
Yes, it is.
So I think there was a question raised earlier about we may all feel this is the right thing to do from a philosophical point of view, but there's a question, is this the right thing for us to do for our community? And one of the things that I've been thinking about over the past few weeks is that even before the internet, libraries were never isolated. And so what a library did for its own small community was never something we was just doing for that community. We would serve interlibrary loan requests for libraries in other places. Just by having a library, we were supporting the values that many of you have spoken to. So in many ways, in struggling with some issue myself and deciding as an elected representative, is this the right decision that I can help make for this community? I've thought a lot about how this is just the next step in many ways in serving our community in the same way we've been doing since this building was built.
Well, I would like to say that when I voted the first time around, I didn't know as much about the issue as I do now. And a large part of that learning on my part occurred because the city officials came to us and asked for a meeting. And I was happy to hear their concerns. It pushed me to find out more about Tor and about the debate that we're all now part of. And I agree that I'm in favor of our participating in this project. But this isn't as easy a decision for me as it may be for some of the people who have commented. I do have concerns about the downside of this, the negative side of this. And as I thought about it, it came to me for my own decision that I could vote in favor of the good. There is a dichotomy here. There is a good and bad going on out there. So I could vote in favor of the good, or I could vote against the bad. And in the end, I've decided that I'd rather vote for the good because there is value to this. There is risk. With any freedom, there is risk. But I think there's more value and there's more good and potential good than the negative side of this. And I think some of the negatives that we heard in the meeting and that you can read about, where people are critical of Tor, this is not good behavior. This is despicable. But as other people have said, there are other ways to police this sort of thing. So I really appreciate all the comments that we heard tonight, and I appreciate all that I've learned throughout this process. So I wonder if there are any more comments from the board.
I agree with you. It is a hard decision to look at both sides, and that's what we needed to do, and to get the information that we needed to have to make that decision is very important.
I also think it's interesting that a few people commented tonight about where they came from or the work that they're involved in, and it really points out that no matter where you are, you're part of a much larger world. And Laura just alluded to that about libraries in particular. But our lives here, we are now part of the larger world. And this is a part of it. There are risks, as I said, but a number of us in the room have already said we're not, if not comfortable, willing to take those risks or live with them. Yes, Joe.
Speaking to the point about being part of a larger community, I'd just like to read the first line of the Lebanon Public Library's mission statement. It says, the Lebanon Public Libraries are committed to open access of information and resources for all persons. That's the first line of our mission statement.
All right. If there are any other comments from the board, would someone like to make a motion?
I'm not sure we did already vote in favor of having Tor, so I don't know that we have to re-vote unless you're going to reconsider. But I think that also it wasn't our decision to stop Tor, it was administration's decision to do that. So my feeling is that we now leave it to administration to start it back up. I don't think that there's a vote that we need to take. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but we did vote in favor of continuing with Tor in June. There has been no vote since then to stop Tor or anything else. So that decision was based on Sean and Chuck and the administrative decision to stop it until we could meet. So we've had our meeting, we've discussed everything. We've heard from all these wonderful people out here that truly cleared things up a lot for me. So I think now it's up to administration at this point to start it back up. So that's my comment, but if you want to do a vote, go ahead.
I think you're right, because the most recent vote or decision was our vote in June.
Was in favor of Tor.
And it was in favor of Tor.
Right. So unless someone wants to vote to reconsider that motion, I don't think anybody wants to do that, so.
Only
I
vote you would need
it
would be to
stands.
turn it off.
Well, you could vote to reconsider the motion, which means that everybody could just re-vote again. But I don't think that that's necessary.
Wonderful.
Thank you. I read my Robert's rules.
This is why I'm the chair. I think we're, unless someone wants to make a motion, we can sit there. And I don't see that. So that, I think, is why most of you are here, and we have the rest of the agenda to take care of. So I think maybe we should just take a couple of minutes to clear the people who want to leave.
I'm sorry, will there be an official statement given about whether it started up or not? Not necessarily now, but.
Will the letter be made available to the public at the
I just want to say one thing. They
on your
have
website?
tons of Tor stickers. I mean, this is a public referendum about privacy and free speech, and I can't think of a better place to have it happen. I mean, there was a reason that we chose Kilton as our pilot project. We knew that New Hampshire, the live free or die state, was the right place for this, and you know, this is the best thing that could have happened. You know, the whole world came out in favor of Kilton doing the right thing, which they've just done. And, you know, I think that it's no better demonstrated by the response of the community, which was just overwhelming. I was crying. Especially when the woman from Colombia spoke. I was like, I'm done. I'm over it. So, yeah.
I mean, we actually been joking about this, like, live free or die.
Yeah, live free.
Live free. Yeah, the library.
Library free or die.
Yes, you could put that on a sticker too.
We were gonna put it on a t-shirt actually, so we're on top of it.
As a New Hampshire resident, I would wear one.
Yeah, okay,
Yes,
awesome.
I know a lot of people would.
We gotta get those printed then quickly.
But we are
so.
definitely overwhelmed by the support of community. It's unbelievable. I was just basically speechless. All it like.
I wasn't nervous until we were like, oh God, there's so many people here, and suddenly it was like, this is this huge thing. It's amazing, and I think what's really, really amazing is that this now, Kilton has made a historic decision tonight. Other libraries are going to be able to follow suit because of Kilton's example, and I'm just like so thrilled by that.
And I do want to say that this is why I always say that New Hampshire is the best state to be doing civil liberties work, and why it is so wonderful to head up the ACLU here in New Hampshire, because you just have people here who really get it. They care about their free speech rights, they care about their privacy rights, they understand that they're part of a larger community, and you really saw that here tonight.
And basically, what happened with police department and DHS was a huge case of miseducation. And tonight, and that was basically part of the reason why we picked libraries, because libraries are central to their communities, and they can, if we help them, give them enough resources, they can teach educate the communities around them, including law enforcement. And tonight, I just realized how educated people in New Hampshire are, and I'm just so proud to be here, and I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And speechless. I'm just I don't know.
I have my 10-year-old who probably knows more. She's going to be the only kid in
Oh my
town
God,
that
that's
knows about
awesome.
Tor.
She should volunteer for Tour Project, the kids division. We gotta start with Tour Youth.